Hey there, team. This is now a video on 3.1 graphing basics. Okay, so checkpoint or checklist, CAS checklist 3.1. Previously, we had checklist 2.1, and so we're now on 3.1. And again, I'm just going to quickly show you again with that we saved a document, and now we can actually move on. I'm just going to go Control, File, and Save. Okay, so I'm saving it, and now watch what happens. I can actually go Document. And I can go File, Open. Okay, I can open a new document. And remember, we had checklist 1. I can go back to checklist 1, and this is what we were doing in checklist 1. Okay, and then I can go back to checklist 2 again. So Open, File, Open Doc, Control O, and I can go back to checklist number 2.1. Okay, so now I'm going to start a new one. So again, we're going to go to Home button, and I'm going to start a new document. So here we go, new document, and this is now document. I'm going to start with a calculator, and I'm going to save this as Control S for checklist number 3.1. Okay, so there we go. Now we've got checklist 3.1, and we're going to go through input a function onto a graph page. Now, what I like you to do, okay, is that for everything in method specifically, especially with functions, I want you to define the function first in the calculator page. So instead of writing y equals 154 minus x squared plus 3x, I want you to actually go to define, or you can go to, again, menu, actions, 1, and press 1 again. So menu, 1, 1. And we're going to do f of x is equal to 154 minus x squared plus 3 times x. Oops, 3 times x. So I've defined it. Now, the benefit is you can do a lot of things. You can find intercepts, you can factorize, can solve, substitute. So if I said sub x equals 2, I now know when x is 2, the value is 156. Okay, the y value is 156. Alternatively, I'm just going to delete this not to confuse people as well. All right, so we can now graph it, and I don't have to retype that equation. I can do Control, remember, add a page, so doc. Control doc will add a page, and I'm going to press number 2 for adding on a graph. So number 2. So this is my graph. So notice 1.1 was my calculator page. 1.2 is now my graph. Instead of typing the equation again, I can actually type f bracket x, and it knows that this was the quadratic equation I had come up with before. So here we go. This is, now I can't see it. I press enter. It should be there, but I don't see it. Why is that? So we've now learned how to input a graph. Okay, so let's see, where's my function? Where did I press it? If you want to go back and edit it, you can press tab. So press the tab button, and notice that is on F2. So if I press tab and I move up, see how that's f of x there? Okay, so that I have entered my function, but for whatever reason, I'm not seeing it right now. And that's because notice the y values and the x values is only from negative 10 to 10 and negative 6.67 to 6.67. But look at the equation. It has 154. So clearly, it's probably a very large value beyond this current axis. I need to increase my axes. Now, a lot of students go to menu and they go to Windows, number 4, and they just keep zooming out until they get what they want, right? So they can go zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. It's terrible technique. I would normally encourage my students to do only 3 things: zoom box, zoom fit, okay, and Windows settings is a manual approach to it. So we're going to try zoom fit. That's normally, if I don't see it, I try zoom fit to begin with. I see if the calculator can fit the graph for me. So I'm going to press zoom fit. And oh, it kind of fits for me. So I can see that the highest value here is 169. And the x value, it's pretty good. Negative 10 to 10, I can kind of see it. But it means that I need a bit left and right, don't I? So notice that I've now taught you that you can go to zoom fit, which is nice, okay? But I haven't actually seen the full graph perfectly because I can't see any intercepts, right? So I'm going to go menu 4, and I can go to Windows settings number 1. Okay, now just another point. Sometimes if you do zoom fit and you don't see exactly what you want, you can do Control Escape, and it brings it back to your first step. Okay, so if you didn't like it, you can always go back to the original. Or say if you did do menu Windows zoom fit, so A, and you get this right, and you wanted to go back to the standard axes, so from negative 6.67 to 6.67 and negative 10 to 10, you can actually go menu Windows, and just go to standard. That's just standard window. Okay, so it brings it back to what it used to be. All right. Now, I'm going to go back to menu 4 for zoom, and then A. So if you press the letter A over here, you get zoom fit, and I'm going to adjust it manually. So menu for Windows settings is just number 1, so menu for 1. And we can see that the X values is -10 to 10. I can actually probably go a bit further. So I might go -20 to say 30. Okay, and let's see if it encapsulates it. That's not too bad. I can now kind of see both left and right, but I don't see the very bottom, do I? So I'm going to go back to, again, menu. And menu 4. And then I'm going to go settings again, menu 4.1. And notice there's no negative values. The minimum is still a very large number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try -20 as an example. And you can see now I can see -20 below, and I can see a value up. Now notice I've got this fraction here that's really huge. That's because of the setting I had for graphs. Okay, so how do we change the graph settings? So I've shown you Windows settings. Okay, I haven't taught you how to find x-intercepts yet, but let's just look at some of the things that you can adjust. So this is your graph settings, okay? We can go to menu. Okay, so this is menu on the graphing page. I'm going to go to settings, and you can see I've got float 3 is auto angle, no grid. You can try that, show axis and end values. You can close that if you wanted to. So if I press enter, so you don't see those values anymore. So you may prefer that, you may not prefer that. I like the numbers so I can sort of estimate what I'm working with, but up to you. Okay, so I'm going to go Control Escape and just get those back in. I'm just thinking we could also keep it in. Maybe if I do float 6, and I'm just going to show axis values. Ooh, that's all right. Forget about that, whatever this is. I can't seem to close it. Yeah, there we go. All right, what was I up to? I was saying menu 4.1, and I'm going to make this -20, and I can see the graph. Cool. All right, getting back on point, we want to find x-intercepts. So x-intercepts, how do you find that? I can clearly see x-intercepts are over here, okay, and there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go menu, analyze graph, so number 6, okay, and then 0. So 0 will allow you to find x-intercepts. So I know it's somewhere over here. Now notice it says lower bound. Well, you just need to go left of where you think it should be, and then upper bound. So once you tap on your cursor, if you tap the center of it, so the center, tap it once to tell it that you've selected the left side. Now the upper bound, I'm going to just select anywhere to the right of where the x-intercept should be. So I'm going to tap it, and it will search within that region where x-intercept should be. Okay, so I'm going to tap again. Here we go, and it gives me -11, 0. Okay, so I now know my intercept is at -11, 0, and I've got another x-intercept over here. And again, I'm going to go to menu, 6 for analyze, and 1 for 0. I'm going to tap on the left of my cursor, so tap left, so that's my lower bound. Move across, and my upper bound somewhere over here, so I'm going to just tap, and it will look for when the y value is 0, and I've got 14, 0. Okay, so this is now 14, 0. How do you find a turning point? Same thing, it's all in the analyze graph. We know turning point is clearly up here, so I'm going to go menu, 6, and it's the maximum, so number 3. Okay, so I'm looking for the maximum, and I'm going to go here. Maximum is somewhere up here, so I'm going to go to the left of it, tap once, move it to the right of it, tap once. Doesn't matter. It will find where the maximum value is from those two boundaries that you set. And I've got 1.5 and 156.25. Okay, so turning point, I've got 1.5 and 156.25. Okay, and if you're not seeing the same values, again, it might be your graph settings. Go to menu, settings. I've got mine on float 6. That might be the difference, why I can see more decimals. And maybe that's why you don't see it. Okay. All right. Where else am I up to? We've done finding x-intercepts. We found turning points, Great. So we've ticked this one off. Trace and finding y-intercept. So the y-intercept is clearly somewhere over here. You can use a trace button. It works for most of the things that you need to do, but I usually use a different method, but trace works. So you go to trace and you go to graph trace, right? You move your cursor and it finds these sort of important points. So it'll find your maximum. So notice that's the maximum. And if you move there, it calls it the y-intercept. And in blue, have you noticed that as you're moving left and right, your y-intercept is when x is 0, it's 154. Okay, so y-intercept, we now know that this is when x is 0, y is 154. Okay, so you can use graph trace. Once you're done, notice on the top left corner here, you're still in the graph trace function. If you press the escape button, you're out of it. Okay. And what else are we going to do? Intersections. We're going to do intersections and finding points with a given y value. Okay, cool. Point of intersection. So I want to find the intersection with the line y equals 2x plus 70, right? So right now, I've only got the quadratic graph that I initially named before. So if I want to enter another graph, I'm going to press tab. So that's F2 now for my second function. And I've got 2 times x plus 70. That's my straight line. 2x plus 70 is in red. Notice there are 2 intersections there. So again, menu, 6, and intersection is number 4. Can you see that? Number 4. There we go. So when I move left of where I think the intersection is, click the lower bound, move your mouse or cursor to the right, which is the upper bound, and it gives me my intersection. Okay, and you can do it again. So menu, 6, 4, lower bound, upper bound. Okay, so I got my intersections there. There you go. What else do I need to teach? I've got finding points of intersections, finding points with a given y value. So notice here the points where y equals 100. So I'm just going to close over here. I'm just going to delete the second equation so it doesn't confuse you. So this is my quadratic. I want to know where on this graph, which x values when the y value is equal to 100, right? So again, menu, also not menu, tab, press tab, and you are interested when y is equal to 100. So remember, f2 of x is the y value. So y equals 100. If you press enter, that's where 100 is. So that point there, we want to know what the x value is. We know the y value is 100, but what's the x value? So again, that's the intersection. So menu, 6, intersections number 4. And if I find the intersection, notice, see that? So when y value is 100, can you see? When y is 100, the x value is negative 6. So at what point? I already know when x is equal to negative 6, then I'll have y equals 100. What about the other point? When y equals 100, x could also be, and I can go to my menu, analyze, and then intersection again, lower bound, upper bound, and clearly it's at 9. So when x equals to 9, I also have y equals 100 as well. Okay, so these are some basic graphing techniques that helps you solve problems, but we've now ticked off most, and getting more or less decimal places, I already just showed you there. Menu, settings, you can change the float, and that will change the number of decimals that you're able to see. So watch if I go to float 2, notice now, see how they come up with E plus 2, E plus 2? If you're getting those, it means that they've summarized, you're not able to show all the digits. Whereas because I changed it before, I went to menu, settings, and I changed it to float 6, means I can see up to 6 digits. That's why I've got 156.25. Okay, so that's getting more or less decimals. Sometimes you can also do another shortcut. I'll show you another one. I'm just going to go back and change that settings. Say you had it on float 2 and you can't be bothered changing the settings. What you can do is move your cursor to the digit that you want. So let's say 1.6e plus 2. What you can do is press the plus button. Okay, so if I press plus, can you see how it shows my digits? So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do for this one, move my cursor to this section, and then press the plus button. See that? Changes to 100 now. You can do the same thing for this one. That's 1e plus 2. Move your cursor there, press plus, and you can keep showing digit by digit by digit. So the more numbers you get, if you keep pressing plus, it will show them individually. Okay. And then finally, identify when a value is not exact. Well, an exact value is when you don't have decimals. When you don't have decimals and it's another third or a fraction. That's an exact value. Whereas a decimal, 1.5 as an example, 1.5, that's a exact value because there are no other digits after that. 1.5 is the same thing as 1.5. So this is considered exact value. Okay. And I think that's probably about it. But let's see what this question's asking. They want you to sketch this graph from -3 to 3. Label points to 3 decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to start another page, the control page, doc, sorry. I'm going to add another graph. And I'm going to type in 7 times x to the power of 2 minus 3 times x plus 14. Now, one extra thing I'm going to teach you right now is you can actually restrict the graph from -3 to 3. So you can tell the calculator to only sketch on the x-axis from -3 to 3. And how do you do that? Press Control equal button, and this box will come up. Use this vertical line. That means given. So you're giving a condition. Right, so the condition is given that, and we want it from -3, so negative's down here, -3, control equals, and we want it to be x is greater than or equal to, control equals again, less than or equal to 3. Now what happens is when I press enter, you get, well actually you're meant to get the graph, but you can't see it. So when we go menu, let's go Windows again, let's adjust it. So let's try adjusting it, menu for A for zoom fit. There we go. Can you see how the quadratic looks a bit funny? That it's kind of stopped here and then it continues there. The reason for that is because I've restricted the domain from -3 to 3. Watch what happens if I type the same equation again, but I don't restrict the domain. Okay, so I'm going to go tab. So the equation was 7 times x squared minus 3 times x plus 14, right? But I'm not going to give it a restriction now. It's not from -3 to 3. Watch what happens. See how it goes on? It goes on forever. There's no restriction to the pink line. So that there would be incorrect for that problem. So when I go back, just got to make sure that you have the restriction to this graph. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that. There we go. That's what the graph should look like. And they're asking, what is the exact value of the turning point? So the turning point is over here. And I want to find that turning point. So menu, analyze minimum, because I'm finding the minimum value. So minimum is number 2. Minimum, and it's left boundary, click once. Right boundary, click once. And notice that this is 0.21 and 14. Okay, now if you want to check if this is the full decimals, notice there's no E plus or anything like that. And my settings is on float 6. So this is pretty good. This is the exact value, 0.21 and 14. If it wasn't an exact value, there should be more decimals coming out of that right now, but there isn't. So that's why I know the exact value to this is clearly 0.21 and 14. Preferably, normally I tell my students not to put in decimals, but I guess you can. I would convert that into a fraction form. So maybe 21/10 to 14. Okay? And that would be a preferred answer. So using fractions. But hopefully that gives you most of the basic skills that you need so far in preparation for learning methods or whatnot. But that gives you a bit of CAS skills. Okay? Thank you for watching.